Good morning. My name is Roger Hamburg. I'm the United States Attorney for the Middle District of Florida. I'm honored to be here today, joined by several of my law enforcement partners. I'd like to introduce them to you. From your left to your right, we've got Lieutenant Larry Grice with the Orlando Police Department. We've got Major Fred Hinderman with the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. We've got Major Mark Castleberry with the Florida Highway Patrol. Chief Vincent Ogburn with the Ocoee Police Department. Then I've got Special Agent in Charge Deanne Reuter with the United States Drug Enforcement Administration. To her left is Chief Dale Coleman with the Oviedo Police Department. Then we've got Chief Deputy Carlos Torres with the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Supervisory Special Agent Steve Strelinsky with Homeland Security Investigations, and Area Port Director Michael Bolero with the United States Customs and Border Protection. Each of these law enforcement agencies does an excellent job of serving their communities. One of their top priorities is protecting their communities from those who traffic in dangerous drugs. It is a goal that my office shares, and we are honored to get the chance to partner with these agencies to prosecute cases in federal court that will serve to protect the public. I appreciate these law enforcement partners for being with me here today so that I can recognize their excellent work in a significant drug trafficking case here in Central Florida. As the United States Attorney for the Middle District of Florida, I have the privilege of serving as the Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer for 35 counties in Florida. Because of the terrible impact that drugs have on the communities that my office serves, my office has increased our resources to prosecute more of those cases in federal court. Over the past 2 fiscal years, we have doubled the number of fentanyl defendants that we have prosecuted in federal court. There are more than 13 million people who live in the district that my office serves, and over the past 2 fiscal years, our law enforcement partners have seized enough fentanyl in our federal cases and related law enforcement operations to kill everyone in my district 4 times over. We also have prioritized the prosecution of cocaine and methamphetamine cases because of the terrible toll that they take. And we know that from the data. Fentanyl is the leading cause of drug deaths in Florida. According to the Florida medical examiners, 5,622 people died as a result of fentanyl in 2022 in the state of Florida. Cocaine and methamphetamine rank second and third. 2,598 people died as a result of cocaine in Florida in 2022, followed closely by 2,193 people whose deaths were caused by methamphetamine. The case that I'm here to talk about today involves all 3 of those dangerous drugs, fentanyl, cocaine, and methamphetamine, and it involves large quantities of them. 68 kilograms of methamphetamine, that's 150 pounds, 2 kilograms of cocaine, 1 kilogram of fentanyl, and 13 kilograms of pills. The defendant in this case was not storing those drugs in a warehouse in some faraway remote location. Instead, he was storing them in 2 residences in this community. Every day, kids in those neighborhoods went to school, and neighbors went to work and ran out to go on errands, not realizing that the residences that they were going by held a secret, which is that they were being used as hubs of drug distribution in our community. But not any longer. This case is a great example of the excellent work that law enforcement is doing in this community to protect everyone from the dangerous drugs of fentanyl, cocaine, and methamphetamine. Let me tell you about this case. On April 8th of this year, law enforcement executed 2 federal search warrants at 2 residences. One of those residences was located in Orlando, the other was in Ocoee. Both residences were used by George Farai Bogiagas. At Farai Bogiagas' primary residence in Orlando, law enforcement found 68 kilograms of methamphetamine in his garage. In addition, the DEA found multiple firearms, kilogram bricks of suspected cocaine, a kilogram brick of fentanyl, and tens of thousands of pills, some of which are suspected to contain MDMA. At Farai Bogiagas' second home in Ocoee, agents found thousands of pills that were pressed to look like pharmaceutical pills. In recent years, this has been a very troubling trend. pills pressed to look like legitimate pharmaceuticals, but that are actually pressed by illicit drug dealers using pill presses, often using fentanyl as part of their deadly mix. The pharmaceutical looking like pills recovered in this case are still being tested. Agents also discovered 2 vehicles that had what we call traps installed in them. A trap is a space within a vehicle that can be used to conceal drugs when they are transported. At both the Ocoee and the Orlando residences, agents recovered more than 13 kilograms of pills that are currently being tested at the DEA laboratories. Law enforcement also found more than $700,000 in United States currency. Farai Bogiagas profited greatly from distributing poison in this community. He is now in jail, and my office is committed to ensuring that he remains there until trial, and if convicted, that he is incarcerated for a period of time that fully reflects the harm that his conduct has caused. In total, the law enforcement agencies on this case have seized approximately 68 kilograms of methamphetamine, 2 kilograms of cocaine, 1 kilogram of fentanyl, 13 kilograms of pills, and 4 firearms from Farai Bogiagas. The large amount of drugs in this case represents thousands of dosages of the top 3 dangerous drugs in Florida. By seizing those drugs and arresting this defendant, the law enforcement agencies on this case have undoubtedly saved lives. I want to commend the DEA, the Orange County Sheriff's Office, the Osceola County Sheriff's Office, the Ocoee Police Department, the Orlando Police Department, the Oviedo Police Department, the Florida Highway Patrol, Customs and Border Protection, and HSI. I want to commend all of those agencies for working together as a team to develop the evidence that has led to the federal charges in this case. Through their excellent work and partnership, Farai Bogiagas has been charged in a federal criminal complaint, and he is being held in custody in the Seminole County Jail. The allegations contained in that federal criminal complaint and in the motion for detention that has been filed in the case, which I've summarized here today, well, they're just that. They're allegations, and Farai Bogiagas is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. These are serious federal charges that are being brought in federal court. Farai Bogiagas is facing a minimum mandatory of 10 years in federal prison, up to life. This case is a great example of how local, state, and federal investigators are able to effectively work together to protect our community by arresting a defendant who was distributing large amounts of dangerous drugs in our community. I'm here today to commend the agencies on this case for their outstanding work on it. Let this be a message to anyone who illegally traffics in dangerous drugs in our community. As you can see from the law enforcement agencies here today, you will be investigated. And if you send deadly drugs into this community, our agents and investigators will use every lawful tool to hold you accountable for your crimes, no matter where you operate. And if you have violated federal law, the United States Attorney's Office will seek to prosecute you in federal court. We are united together in our mission to keep this community safe. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Special Agent in charge with the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, Deanne Reuter.
Good morning. Thank you, U.S. Attorney Hamburg, for bringing us here together today, and thank you to our law enforcement partners who have joined us on stage this morning. I am Deanne Reuter. I am the Special Agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration here in Florida. I am proud to be standing here on this stage with our partners this morning. Starting in late 2020, the DEA Orlando District Office initiated an investigation into a drug trafficking organization responsible for distributing some of the most dangerous, most destructive, and most addictive substances that we have ever seen. This month, from a house here in Orlando, DEA agents seized fentanyl, methamphetamine, cocaine, and a number of weapons. In fact, the 150 pounds of methamphetamine seized from this individual, this defendant, was the largest methamphetamine seizure by DEA in Orlando on record. Methamphetamine and fentanyl are part of the most urgent drug threats facing our country, and our Florida communities are not immune. According to the latest numbers from CDC, more than 110,000 American lives have been lost to drug-related overdoses and poisonings. Those 110,000 lives are our family members, our mothers, our fathers, our sons, our daughters, and our friends. Tragically, the majority of those deaths were caused by illicit fentanyl or a mixture of the deadly dose of fentanyl with other illicit substances like methamphetamine and cocaine. Fentanyl is highly addictive, extremely potent, and is a synthetic opioid 50 times more potent than heroin and 100 times more potent than morphine. An incredibly small amount, just 2 milligrams, is enough to kill. Think about that. 2 milligrams fits on the tip of a pencil, and it's enough to change a family forever. Methamphetamine is equally addictive and extremely destructive. The detrimental effects of methamphetamine go far beyond the toll it takes on individual users. It tears communities apart. All over Florida and throughout the United States, DEA investigations are finding fentanyl not only pressed into fake pills, but also laced with other illicit substances, like methamphetamine and cocaine, making these already destructive substances even deadlier. This arrest highlights DEA's commitment to stopping the flow of these deadly substances into Florida. This Central Florida-based drug trafficking organization is accused of bringing significant amounts of methamphetamine and fentanyl into Florida, where it found its way onto the streets and into the heart of the Orlando community. DEA remains committed to working with our law enforcement partners, those that you see on stage here today, to thoroughly investigate and dismantle these sophisticated and violent drug trafficking organizations that threaten the safety of our Florida communities. These drug trafficking organizations value their own personal profit over human life, over the lives of your families, and over the lives of your neighbors. DEA values you. We value your lives and the lives of your family and friends. And we remain committed to protecting our communities. I'm incredibly proud to be standing here today to talk about the hard work and dedication of the DEA Orlando office and that of our federal, state, and local partners. These cases often involve long hours, coordination, and attention to detail, and I thank all the men and women who put the safety of our communities above their own comfort. I thank all the leaders here on stage today for their commitment and our partnerships. I thank U.S. Attorney Hamburg for his leadership and support on the prosecution of this case. And I would also like to thank you here today who are helping us spread the word on the dangers of illicit fentanyl and bring awareness that one pill can kill. Thank you, and I will now turn it back over to U.S. Attorney Hamburg for any questions.
Thank you, Special Agent in Charge Reuter. Does anyone have any questions?
It was mentioned a larger drug operation. So I think if you're saying this man is involved in that operation, and can you say anything about that operation?
We can't make any comment at that at this point. I mean, what I can just tell you in general from being in this office for 21 years as a federal prosecutor, on all of these cases, one of the many things I admire about the agencies you see in front of you is they're thorough and meticulous, and they will follow up on each and every lead, and we do that in every case, and I expect that this case will be no exception, but I don't have any further information to provide at this time about that.
Is it safe to assume that more arrests will be coming of this?
Again, I'm going to let the investigators do the work, and the only time we're going to comment about anything is once it hits the courthouse.
You say this actually began back in 2020 with investigation?
Yes, that's what the Special Agent in Charge Reuter said. Yes.
Can you tell anything about as far as how you worked on this particular operation?
So what I would expect is, as often happens in our cases in federal court, is that those details will come out during the course of the trial. And what's been put in the public record with respect to this case is really the execution of the search warrant forward. As you heard from the Special Agent in Charge, 68 kilograms of methamphetamine. I mean, the largest seizure that DEA has on record. So a really incredible fact, but I expect further details to be to come out once the case proceeds through court.
Can you share anything about Rodiatis' role in the drug trafficking organization?
So at this point, what we can tell you is that he had significant amounts of narcotics that were found in the 2 residences that are associated with him. And again, I would expect further details about that to come out as the court proceedings proceed ahead.
Did he live in one or both of those houses, or did anyone live in those houses, or were they just warehouses?
My understanding is I believe the Orlando house is the one he was living in, and the Ocoee house is what we would call a stash house. So we always have to, submit a probable cause affidavit to a judge, but the contents of that have not yet been released. But like I said, I would expect as the case proceeds ahead that some of those details in the ordinary course often come out in our cases.
When you talk about this being, 2 homes in the neighborhood, can you talk about, the impact a little bit further? You elaborated on how asbestos and stuff flow.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's always concerning, to anyone in the community. Sometimes you think you know your neighbors, and in this case, we had, 2 residences and nice communities that weren't what they seemed to be. I mean, in some respects, this defendant was hiding in plain sight, and he had houses that had, and I can't really underemphasize the tremendous amount of drugs that were in these houses. But not anymore, and that's what I've been privileged to get a chance to see over the course of my time here at the United States Attorney's Office is these agencies, once they discover, something like that in their community, they're going to use every lawful tool to protect the people in their community. But, it's not every day that we see that quantity of drugs in 2 residences.
How long have you resided at that home?
That I don't know. So.
Yeah, in a kind of unrelated case, but also relating to these big drug operations, we have the Seminole County carjacking and so forth. Can you talk about where we go from here, since it's now in the federal system at this point, where we go from here as opposed to connecting the dots?
So with respect to the Seminole County carjacking case, I expect that Sheriff Lima and I are going to have a press conference on Monday where, I can address any questions related to that case.
And can you just explain why you were taking over that versus a more local municipality, or the sheriff's office, why the federal government is taking over that investigation?
Well, now I know to be prepared for your question on Monday. Thank you for the primer, yes.
Coming back to this
Yeah.
case, can you tell us whether the judge was a U.S. citizen and was there any international involvement?
He is a United States citizen. I'm not aware of any international involvement, but maybe those details will come out.
Well, along those lines, do we know where the drugs were coming from?
That's not in the public record right now. So again, if we have that at some point, I would expect it to come out in a trial in this case. So, and I thank you all very much for your attention, and I guess I will see you on Monday. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.